This is the OverReaction podcast.
Jerry, Ryan, how goes it?
Goes well.
Fantastic. Great start to 2025.
Yeah, how is that? What would you guys do for holidays? Do you guys travel much or kind of stay home bodies?
Yeah, during Thanksgiving and Christmas, actually stayed in town, although took a trip to the Caribbean at the beginning of December, which was super nice. Aruba was fantastic. And then last weekend went to visit my mom. She lives in Ohio, doing very, very well. Turns 93 next month. So it's great to get together with her. And my brother came up from South Carolina as well. So got to see him. So fantastic start to the new year.
That's awesome. How about you, Ryan?
I don't know. Jerry's life is a little more exciting than mine. We had a quiet, kind of low-key holiday season. I have some family in the Colorado area, so I got a chance to go out there and spend some time with them and eat too many calories and play games and, you know, call each other names as you play said board games, as most good family units do. But we get fiercely competitive about things like Scrabble, and we usually have a new board game under the tree. This year it was something called Sequence, which I guess is an older game, but we really enjoyed learning how to play that game together. So pretty low key.
That's awesome. Well, good for y'all. I got in one ride. There's a couple areas down in the lower hills. I live up in the Park City area, but there's always a couple areas even in the middle of winter where you can do a little bit of riding, hit some jumps, and I got one ride and that's it. Our family doesn't really travel much during holidays. Try to avoid it like the plague. There seems to be I remember this was years ago, sitting in at Disney World outside a ride. My wife and kids, they love it. The rest of my family does. And I was just sitting there watching everybody, and it's just lines. And I think it was during like Easter or something like that, spring break. And I had this kind of epiphany because my background's in economics, and I'm like, there's an inverse value cost relationship. And I think I was talking to this guy next to me, and I'm pretty sure it's just some other dad. And he's just like, shut up. What are you talking about? And I went, and I just started pontificating. I'm like, hang on. So the flights were expensive because it's spring break. I'm like, the hotel's expensive. It's spring break. There's so many people down here, which means we're in traffic all the time. There's so many people at the parks and all this kind of stuff. So you don't get as many rides in if that's what you're there for. So I'm like, this is crazy. More hassle, way more costs. You get to do less. These curves are inverted. We can't have this kind of stuff. So I slowly started working with my wife. Like, hey, can we just not? It didn't work really well. But the last 4 or 5 years, she's kind of bought into my. Like, we'll go in the middle, like you did, Jerry. Like, let's go at the beginning. Like, let's go in between stuff.
That's what you do. I mean, I used to travel at the holidays all the time, and it's just so stressful.
Yes.
That I just made the pledge to my family, I'll come to visit you before or after, but not on. And it's just worked out. Everyone remains stress-free, and we get to see each other off cycle a little bit.
I have a good friend who insists on going skiing on Super Bowl Sunday. And the reason they do that is nobody is on the slopes on Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's a great
point.
Wow. Get in twice the runs. It's not crowded, relaxing, get to really enjoy the slopes. So I think your theory on value and inverse value holds up.
Yeah, it's kind of like, when you go into work, do you try to make sure you hit rush hour in the morning and make sure you hit rush hour on the way home, and let's try to get a little early or go a little after, right?
Right.
That's smart. This is a life hack. This is a pro life hack.
Yeah, exactly. So how things at Children Nebraska?
Going really, really well. 2024 was a tremendous year of achievement. We've worked over the last several years to really hone our goals yearly to focus on our enterprise strategic plan, which is a rolling 5-year plan. And for mine and Ryan's area, just knocked it out of the park in 2024. Our teams did. Got a lot of great recognition from an innovation and technology standpoint. Example of that is locally, there's a NAME Institute. What they concentrate on here is to develop tech talent in our region, and they awarded us Innovator of the Year for the work we're doing in our Mammal Innovation Center, which is our physical space, our incubator for innovation here at Children. So that was amazing. And then Chime awarded us level 9 out of 10, most wired in both the acute and ambulatory settings. And on top of that, Chime came together with the Class Arch Collaborative, where we were in the top quartile of satisfaction with our EHR, and then with our award with Chime for the most wired, we were one of 2 organizations in the country to receive the inaugural Synergy Award for achievement in digital innovation in 2024. So Ryan and I were just couldn't have been more pleased with the outcome and achievement in technology here at Children's in 2024.
You guys setting up a trophy case?
Yeah, we are in our innovation center. Absolutely.
You need to. A little, what do they say? You need a little extra room on the mantle now.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it feels good to be recognized for sure.
Yeah.
It's a special organization just because we're not on our own in the Midwest, but we're definitely we have a large region that we have to service and support. So to have industry peers recognize us for excellence in care is a big deal. We're most of the time just so focused on patients and patient families that, we don't spend a lot of time kind of in the award circuit. So Jerry got that phone call kind of unexpectedly. And the funny part of the story is Jerry was at a separate conference and not able to accept that award on behalf of the organization. But I happened to be presenting at that conference, not knowing we were going to win.
Really?
So we found out, days before it was going to happen. So it was a big honor for us for sure.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, it's great that you're focusing on the right things rather than doing what some of your peers, I'm not going to mention name, who lobby constantly for that kind of stuff. And it becomes a little overt. So it's good that you're focusing on the most important things, which is the patients, the patient families, wrapping in, thinking about how's innovation going to support the mission of the organization, and then the accolades and will follow, but it's not the reason you're doing it, right? So.
Yeah, 100%, Jeremy. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. We love to get the recognition, but really for us, the reason we really strive to do this, our mission here is to improve the life of every child through care, advocacy, research, and education. So that research component has a lot of technology and innovation in there to help us advance patient care outcomes. And one of the statistics we talk about a lot is that in pediatric healthcare, only gets about 2% of the innovation dollars spent in all of healthcare, right? So you think about that, that's a really alarming statistic, because we want to intervene early and often in children's lives to set them up for health and adulthood. So we really want to, not just monetarily, but through innovation, innovative thinking, to bridge that gap that gets more attention to the children we're trying to serve, and to advance outcomes that we can share nationally, right? So that we are improving the life of every child, regardless of whether they're seen by us or not. And that's what our mission here is all about, and why getting that recognition means a lot is because we are advancing outcomes and being recognized for advancing outcomes. And that's a nice end product, right? That helps us get attention. And then, that attention also gets us collaboration from other innovative thinkers in pediatric medicine and from other industries. We're finding that we find a lot of great success from innovative technology companies that want to partner with us to help us advance our mission and our outcomes for children's health.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it kind of what you described, that's kind of how you found your star in Ryan, right? I mean, you were looking for, because Ryan, your background wasn't healthcare. You came to ed tech and then an AI company, but it was looking for, super talented. I think when we talked sometime last year, Jerry, you mentioned it, like what your goals were for Children Nebraska and what you needed to accomplish based on the mission from your CEO, your board, et cetera. And then you found someone like Ryan who normally doesn't have the background in healthcare, but you're like, but he has all the other intangibles we're looking for.
Yeah, 100%. I'll tell you a little bit of that story, and then I'll let Ryan speak to his background, which is really an amazing background. But I've been in healthcare for 30 years. I've been a healthcare leader for about 24 years now. And as we really started to look at advancing innovation in our organization, we all know healthcare has been probably one of the least innovative industries. We've lagged behind in technology, all those pieces. And we realized that I also needed a succession plan. I'm kind of in the twilight of my career at this point. And so we created this deputy CIO position, and we really started out looking for kind of a traditional CIO role, someone to come in with healthcare experience, and but we cast a pretty broad net. And what happened was when we interviewed Ryan, the light bulbs just really went off that someone from outside of healthcare with this innovative background, this creativity, could come in and challenge our way of thinking to help us move quicker. I have strategic planning as one of my roles, but my thinking has been operational healthcare, right, for 30 years. So bringing in Ryan has just helped us really jumpstart and go light years quicker than we would have if we'd have brought in a traditional IT healthcare leader. So I'll let Ryan talk a little bit about his background and some of the tremendous things he's helped us do since he's been here.
Yeah,
awesome.
It's been a cool journey. The thing that I think surprises people most is I had a recruiter reach out when the position became available, and this is 100% true, no exaggeration, that they reached out and they said, "Hey, would you be interested in this job at a children's hospital?" Just happened to be down the street from where I live. I'm only a few miles away from the main campus, and it was a national search, which is kind of comical as well. And I said no. And
I'm not
no
surprised.
hesitation, no. Like, it was an immediate no.
And visceral reaction.
Yeah, I had some misconceptions though, right? Because I didn't understand what working in healthcare was like or was about or how people were going to be. And I went into it foolishly with these misconceptions about that environment and what the job environment is like. And so I was pretty guarded at first. And then a couple of weeks later, you can say, it was kismet, or I was called to the profession, or however you want to quantify that. I couldn't get out of my head. I just literally could not get it out of my head. So I fished, the invitation out of my deleted email, read the description, the challenge profile for what Children's was attempting to do, and just kind of fell in love with the idea. So I talked to my family. I was like, hey, should I go for it? I'm probably not going to get it. I'm going to be competing with MDs and people, who have a lifetime of experience in this space. And by and large, I was encouraged to just try. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? They say no thanks and they pass on you. So after I started meeting people and asking them really hard questions about what's your culture like? What are you investing in? What are you trying to accomplish? How are you positioned as a team? What roles are you going to hire in the future? Every answer was exceptional. And what I saw in Children's Nebraska is an organization that is small enough to be nimble, big enough to make an impact, and 100% committed to rethinking this whole paradigm of what healthcare should look like. And you just simply can't beat the business of pediatrics. It is the single most rewarding profession that you're ever going to encounter. So I was thrilled to be given the opportunity, but my background, I thought I was going to direct music videos for a living. Like that was the trajectory I started on. All my
talk
heroes,
about the least, going from the most fulfilling kind of thing to probably the most vapid, unfulfilling. You're probably like, oh my gosh, you got to deal with these people.
It's true. It's true. I thought that was going to be my profession. I ended up doing a little bit of time as a journalist, and then found a love for education and spent quite a bit of time in the higher ed education space, serving as a deputy CIO eventually. And then during the COVID era, a brief stint with an AI startup where I'd learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself and I learned a lot about startups. The thing that I learned about myself is I 100% love working for a mission-based, value-based organization. And they can be high knowledge and high complexity and tough places to work, but I've learned that I thrive in that environment. And the other thing that I really learned about it is with as much as you learn about startups and kind of that space, there's so much missed opportunity to do good. You're focused on scale, you're focused on growth, you're focused on the stockholders. Those companies are probably going to get bought and sold and merged and cut and sliced and diced and all of those things. And you could make a compelling argument that many of them do have a novel solution that the world needs. And you have to have that level of investment to transform things. But at the same time, there's so much missed opportunity to do the right thing. So when I get up every day and I have hard days and challenging days where Jerry's trying to teach me in a very short period of time of how to be a healthcare leader, I'm so energized by it because it's such a perfect match for me. So it's been great. I love it. I'm thrilled to be given the chance.
And how many surprises did you come into? So you have certain expectations and misconceptions. What were some of what was the hardest part of the transition from into a really different area? Which I don't want to also help you with the answer, but a lot of people I've talked to before, they're surprised by things they saw as being, oh, well, these are going to be no brainers, and they realize, no, this is institutional dysfunction across.
Yeah,
like, you can't change this.
So I have started to call it the Museum of Healthcare. And it is my opinion that healthcare is not a museum, it's a movement. And so the surprise to me was going to a lot of meetings where we would talk about a particular project we wanted to do. And that could be a new piece of software or a new process or a change in communications with patients. I do a lot of work kind of on our digital front door. So a lot of those projects I've been working on. And a lot of the times it's just a recast of what we were already doing. So it was, we reference the museum, we see what process is on the shelf. That feels comfortable. That feels safe. We're going to go with that and, call it advancement or call it innovation. And so I was surprised by generally healthcare feels like they're 15 years behind the curve when it comes to consumerism, when it comes to really meeting people where they're at. Children's Nebraska when I arrived, already had multiple projects to solve that problem. So Jerry came in with a really great mindset of thinking, how do we bring in digital wayfinding? How do we bring in digital systems at the bedside? How do we really reach out? And I think we've made a great team because, we're really aware of what's happening outside of our walls. We're deeply engaged in this community. The community of Omaha is just second to none. And so by having those conversations, talking to people, learning from what it is that they need for their kids, that really has been the North Star to get us there. The other surprise I'll tell you is there a misconception that healthcare jobs are like working in a war zone. There are tough days, and there are people who have, egos and big jobs and big decisions and tough work to do on, but it is an incredibly collaborative, kind, caring environment. And everybody that I've encountered in this organization and even other organizations, even on our worst day, will rally together to do what's right for patients. And so for anybody who may encounter your podcast and they're thinking about, well, maybe I should consider healthcare, you should, because it's incredibly rewarding. People are awesome to work with. It's a tough job, but you're not going to beat the work.
You mean it's not like Cook County? On a TV show,
no,
DR, something like that, where it's
awesome. People are so welcoming. Yeah, it truly is a community that works together. Jerry mentioned this earlier. Like, there's no trade secrets. So if we discover something that's good for patients, we'll call our peer leaders and share that with them, and vice versa. So that's really refreshing to see that level of collaboration.
Yeah, it's good. You don't want to treat it as healthcare certainly shouldn't be treated as a zero-sum game like other competitive industries. It just doesn't, because it doesn't help anybody at all. It's very self-defeating. So have you run into, Jerry and Ryan, any issues attracting top talent? Because as I've talked to different organizations across the country, that seems to be a universal problem. Part of it is people getting burned out. Part of it is they're in Twilight's career. Healthcare is an older industry if you look at age groups, et cetera. So have you run into any of that, or I think y'all are doing a little bit better than most in that regard, from what I understand.
Yeah, it was really interesting to me coming to Children's Nebraska and learning that our area is called the Silicon Prairie. It's got the nickname Silicon Prairie. I was amazed at the caliber of tech talent on the team here when I arrived. So, usually you're a new CIO coming into an organization and you concentrate on performance management, and there's folks you have to coach to success, and in the rare case when you can't do that, you have to let them go. And honestly, to a person on the team that Ryan and I have working for us, none of that happened. Prior to his arrival, when I got here, we had to make a few adjustments, but retain the folks in the organization, right? So a supervisor who was really an individual contributor, but playing to their talents. And, to that point, team member engagement is so important to us here at Children's Nebraska across the board. So we do annual surveys to get the pulse of our team members, and our turnover is actually very low as well. Ryan and I have, I do believe it's the lowest or second lowest turnover in the entire organization. And
wow.
Part of that is we were always forward thinking around how do we attract talent that's not necessarily in the Omaha area, and COVID helped us advance that, right? So 80% of our team works from home. They can come on site and work if they want to, but they don't have to. And we've been able to recruit great talent from, Arizona. We've got folks in Washington, We get into a little bit of trouble when we find talent in a state that's hard to do business with because they're remote. We have to work through those processes. But we've got a really collegial, collaborative team, and along those lines, we do a lot of development. So Ryan and I have a strategic technology framework for our team, and the third goal in that framework is to not only engage those team members, but develop them in their skills into the future. And so we have a number of strategies around that, and we use our whole leadership team to help us craft those strategies. The final point is you're absolutely right. A lot of our leaders and a lot of our team members came from traditional clinical environments. So we have a number of respiratory therapists, nurses, lab techs that have come over to work for our team. And we have an aging workforce, right? So Ryan and I have made a lot of concerted effort to look at succession planning, how we're going to manage that process as folks age out. And I will tell you, we have a really terrific HR department here, great HR business partner that's proactively working with us.
That's pretty rare. I don't hear that very often.
I will tell you that.
That's awesome.
And I will say we have all the great ingredients for success here. We have a terrific CEO. We have terrific partnership with HR. They get the tech industry and really are helpful. Ryan and I really feel like they help us advance our organization. And you're right, Jeremy. I've been in other organizations where HR has been resistant and a barrier, and we don't experience that here. So I feel really good and positive about the future. My final point is I actually reside on the board of an organization here in Omaha that's dedicated to developing tech talent, and so I'm helping to guide that process, get into other organizations and talk about healthcare and get folks interested in healthcare as well. So we feel pretty positive about it. I would say we're going to keep that intense work at top of mind because we don't want to put the organization in a position of not having the right talent into the future. The other thing I'll mention is, we just did, Ryan and 4 of his peers just led a, we call it Plan 2034, really looking at what Children Nebraska is going to look like in 2034. And they did a lot of work on what's the leader look like in 2034 and what's the talent and skills we need in 2034, not just in tech, but across the board. So really forward thinking, and that's a tribute to Ryan and his peers to really take that mantle and help get us prepared for what we're going to look like in 10 years.
I think, Jerry's spot on. I will also add, I feel like Children's is a bit of an anomaly in the area. I think if you were to survey some of the Fortune 500s in the area, they would say it's very difficult to recruit full stack engineers. It's very difficult to recruit ML and AI because everybody is competing for that talent right now. Yeah. We as an organization tend to do work that's more on the integration and analysis side and not necessarily the development side. So to kind of address that brain drain or that competitive environment to find those engineers, that caliber of talent, we partner. And so we find those scrappy startups that really want to work in pediatrics, and they're the 2%ers. And we get to know them and we build lasting partnerships. And, many of our innovations come out of those co-development partnerships where if we do need full stack, if we do need AI, if we need ML, those sorts of skill sets that nationally, globally are highly competitive to find that talent. We'll seek it out and address it through partnership.
That's awesome. So do you see when you're hiring younger people, something we've had to do, is they come with a lot of skill, in good intellectual prowess, intellectual rigor. We find that we're having to spend time more on life skills, stuff that I think some of us older, bolder, whatever, just kind of had, that we take for granted. And so we actually will do like how to talk to people role playing, just how to talk. And then how to, hey, if someone didn't like what you said and they have a counterpoint, that doesn't mean it was an attack. What it means is that's a issue. So the issue is different than the individual. So we've spent, and I should have recognized it earlier because we kind of cycled through some younger people, and it was more about us just not understanding the needs of the new up and coming workforce. Yeah. And I think what I find a little disappointing with a lot of companies, and I think it's actually already starting to blow up in their faces, they're trying to say, well, we need to get AI to do all these jobs. And they're trying to replace it because they don't want to put in the work. You've heard, that's a saying now, got to put in the work. I guess, well, I've been watching a lot of football. So they're saying, that's where I'm getting it from. Maybe it's not in the HR management world, but just thinking about, hey, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, sure, pun intended, where it's like, you can't, like, AI is not going to anytime soon whole hog replace someone's job and role. Like we've tried in little things here just to test. We're like, not that we want to get rid of it. It's just test it. You just can't. It's like, no, let's keep putting in the work. Let's keep hiring for the intangibles that they have, work ethic, intelligence, passion, creativity, honesty. And then we can give them the experience that they need. But there's more than that. Like, how do you, are in a meeting and, hey, when you're on a Zoom call, you need to show your face. You can't just take off and, hey, put your phone down. Just like some basic stuff you think, hey, their parents or school should teach them. Well, they're not. So teach them that. It makes them a better, more well-rounded person, but it also become much more productive for the company. Have you seen any of that, or are you getting people that are just, they got it all right from the jump?
I can jump in here as the resident academe. I'll share with you that what you're describing in terms of generational values and skill sets is a consequence of the modern world. So there was a huge movement, and you'll remember this, many people listening will remember this, where, as a nation, we looked at our skill set, our engineering skill set, our math skill set, all of the STEM things that we wanted, and we doubled and tripled down on it. And so that has produced multiple generations, really two. I'm a Gen Xer, so everybody that kind of follows me, that came out of school with very strong, incredible technical skill sets, but maybe didn't spend time in the liberal arts debating things, getting into project planning. And I'll even pepper in some things that are unexpected, how to do your taxes. How to figure out budgets and things like that they're just not regularly taught in school. I was outright told I was one of the last groups of people to have a required home economics class. And that's pretty powerful. Like, I learned how to sew and bake banana bread and things like that. And I have great memories of that class, but that was something that, many schools kind of pushed to the side and said, okay, we're going to do more foreign language, more math, more science. And so it's all good. It's all needed skill sets, but we do see that with younger generations that their expectations of how they engage with an employer are very different. Work-life balance is a different definition for them. The things that get them excited about coming to work every day and being energized are very different. And so we have really purposeful groups across the entire organization that people can connect with. Whether you're a person of color, whether you're a young professional, we really kind of lean into the diversity mindset, and those types of programs offer that. And then leaders at Children's are expected to be tuned in to a lot of great tools like Franklin Covey and some of the other products that are available out there. Gallup is a company that's just down the street. We work with them quite frequently with Strengths Finders and some of those incredible tools that kind of help people connect with what they're best at. And it's about investing the time and talking through those things. So one thing that, I've learned from Jerry, as he's learned and evolved to be an exceptional leader in healthcare, is the value of skip levels and the value of spending time with everybody in the organization. And, management 101, they'll say, be present, but Jerry takes it to the next level. And so he developed a program called Java with Jerry. And then when I showed up, we struggled if we were going to call it Radishes with Ryan or whatever we were going to come out. He said Coffee with Cameron, so that actually worked out much better in our favor. And so we, schedule a lot of time. It's a commitment. So we say no to meetings. We spend the time with the team, and it's an open forum and a safe place where they can talk about things either individually or as groups. And that's where we uncover those moments where we need to coach or provide maybe a different skill set. But it's also a two-way door too, right? So if I hire somebody who's early career, I promise you they're going to do circles around me when it comes to that technical skill set. They already know prompt engineering. They already have worked in Python. They've already done all of these things that maybe in my coursework I spent a few hours on. So it's an exciting time to see so many generations in the workplace at the same time. And this is a very rare historic moment where we have 4, potentially 5 different generations, all with different types of thinking and mindsets in the workforce at the exact same time. So, organizations are going to look very different in the next 3 to 5 years as a result of that.
Yeah, I will add, I loved all those points Ryan made. I will also say, as an organization, Children's Nebraska, I mentioned our human resource department and organizational development just beyond the technical. And I will share with you that in our team engagement surveys, our engagement index is in the high 80s, which puts us in one of the top in the country. And one of the things that we did as an organization, multi-generational focus groups around what we call our people first promise. So we went out in the organization and got baby boomers and Gen Xers and millennials and Gen Z, and we got them all in a room and said, what is important to you from an employment standpoint? And the 5 things that we got from them was, I want you to care about my well-being. I want my work to be tied to the purpose of the organization. I want you to develop me as an individual and care about my development as an individual and growth. I want to have joy in the workplace. So I don't want it to be a place that I show up and it's drudgery, right? I want to have fun and I want to engage with my team members. And then I want to be rewarded. I want you to recognize my accomplishments. And so, that people first promise was really developed by our team members. It was a grassroots effort that we all live by now. And I think that's really contributed to our team engagement scores being so high. And, Ryan and I take our engagement scores and dig down into the many things that he talked about. What is important to you that we're not providing to you? Is it work-life balance? I mean, we've had team members that we found weren't mortgage ready, right, in our organization, and said, how can we assist you to get mortgage ready? Or how can we help you financially with things that you're struggling with in your personal life? So there's a huge commitment here to our people, which fuel our mission more than any other organization that I've worked with in the past.
And we do have cooking classes. Yeah. So if you missed that home ec opportunity, we do have those fun cooking classes. In fact, we're having a chili cook-off coming up in a couple of weeks here. Yeah.
So is it real Southern chili? Does it have beans in it or no beans?
Oh, you're getting into the nuance here.
It'll be a variety.
Jerry was a judge last year, I think.
A couple of years ago, I judged. Yeah, it's great.
Brought the antacids. Yeah, no, that's really good because it's you look at it. So many organizations. I talk to so many different from my time at class and then consulting and then even running Reaction. It's constant conversations with hospital CIOs and CFOs and chief medical officers, but then startups all over the place. And I always look for those tells about it. And it's about how they describe their people. Do they spend more time talking about their product and what they're trying to accomplish, or do they talk more about their team and their culture? And so I can see why you're able to attract top talent and retain top talent, because it's, I look at it as there's some companies that you see in healthcare where they have an annual riff. It's so funny. They're constantly, the turnover is so high. And I'm like, well, the turnover is high, number one, probably because your recruiting and hiring process probably isn't the best to match to your culture. And then obviously your retention, but around retentions, all these other things you talked about. So Jared, what I loved what you talked about, it was kind of went much farther than what I was talking about, is you have to look at the whole person. And in healthcare, hospitals should be the best in the world at thinking about it, because they realize, hey, are we just in the job of constantly treating patients? Or should our mission also be, we don't want them to have to come in here. What can we do to help them not have to come back? Because ideally that would be perfect. So healthcare organizations think like that. Well, then about the employee, it's, hey, they don't know, can they qualify for mortgage? Do they know how to cook? All these other sorts of things. Because if they have a better life, they're going to be better and more productive for us. But we're not doing it so they're better for us. We're doing it because it is a win-win. Us helping and spending time helping them be more self-actualized or just better citizens, more able to take care of themselves, etc., is just good in its own right. But it also has that secondary effect of they're actually happier and more productive here, and we're not going to have to replace them. We're not going to churn
do
our
the
employees.
Math. How much does it cost to do a RIF versus retain somebody? How much does it cost to recruit versus retain somebody?
When your turnover rates are high, there's a huge cost to that recruitment, all of that. And, Jeremy, one of the things I did mention, we're far from perfect here at Children Nebraska. And, with that said, when you were talking about, communication and how folks engage in the organization, our core values are innovation, collaboration, accountability, respect, and excellence. And a lot of organizations have values, right? And to me, in organizations I've worked in the past, they're words on a page. But here we really, really use those words to ingrain a culture. So, innovation, we talk about it in every day. We talk about collaboration and teamwork every day. We talk about folks' accountability every day, a respectful environment. We're doing a lot of work actually in 2025. As you know, workplace violence is at an all-time high in the healthcare industry. So we're doing a really concentrated effort in 2025 on a respectful environment. And then, excellence, and we're always striving for excellence. And for me, it's a rare in an organization to see that commitment to really living our values every day and hold people accountable to living the values and to giving them the tools to say, this is what accountability means, and this is what respect means in our environment, rather than them just being words on a page, right? It's here's the expectations of you, and here's how you contribute to the organization. And the result is going to be we're going to care about your well-being. We're going to recognize you. We're going to have you feel like you belong in the organization. So it's really a two-way street that I think we're building in a really unique way.
That's great. I want to switch gears a little bit. So what's the difference between a CIO, like a CCHIO, CHIO? Now you got chief digital officers, chief transformation officers, chief digital transformation officers, chief clinical transformation officers, chief innovation officers. Like, I don't know what those all are.
You mean the EIOs?
I'm looking at it and I'm wondering if, during COVID, everyone just got too bored. Like, we got to add more stuff, but
people are competitive entities. And so there's truth to credentialing and the value of a credential and how you go after those things. I mean, ultimately, if I were to sit down with a colleague or interview somebody who has that credential or that pedigree behind them, I would ask them what it means to them and what it meant to the organization, because I think they're very organizationally specific. Jerry, for example, holds the title of CIIO because he has the information enterprise and also the innovation side of it. And you could pepper in, strategic planning and some other things in there too. But we try not to get too wrapped around the letters at the end of the name or the titles and really focus on the work. The key differences for me are the projects that you're working on and what sort of mode or modality that they fall into. Jerry's laser focused on security and interoperability of information throughout the enterprise. And that can mean medical data, that can mean business data. And so that's why the CIO title is very appropriate for the work that he's doing, because he's ultimately responsible for those things. We've talked numerous times about what the heck we call me. If it's, chief innovation, chief digital, what it would happen to be. I think my closest cousin would probably be CDO, because as I mentioned before, I'm working on things that are consumer facing apps, web pages, technologies that patients or patient families are going to interact with directly. I spend a lot of time with that. So I think it just kind of comes into the category of project that you're working on. If I'm being honest and we want to, have the podcast keep people's attention, there's some bloat out there. There are people who come up with, AI Sherpa or crazy titles out there to have that competitive advantage and to look good on LinkedIn and do the things that you do to try to shine and get the attention of others. But we really don't see a lot of that. We have a pretty flat organization. We have not a lot of hierarchy intentionally. And so
good, because that's where I want to go next.
Yeah. When people introduce themselves at Children's, you'll find that they'll just say, "Hi, I'm Ryan," or they'll say, "I work in this department." And so you don't see a lot of people kind of self-evangelizing and saying, I'm Dr. Ryan Cameron, the chief, blah, 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 blah.
So how do you keep a flat organization? Because it's the thing we're starting to see, or that I look for, is that with our clients, I kind of know what I'm getting into. Like, if there is a enormous, it is like, I feel like Shrek's donkey. Like, everyone loves a parfait, and it just has layer after layer where it's CEO, another level of C levels, another executive vice president, senior vice president, vice president, regional vice president, senior director. And I'm like, who's doing work? That is a massive bureaucratic number of layers. How many people are actually doing work? And then it's senior manager, a bunch of managers, and then like how many people are like doing it. It's almost like in a school district now where there's way more administrators than just teachers. And you're like, something seems a little inverted on that kind of thing. Is that going to be an efficient organization? Can people make real good decisions? Or does everything get lost in an endless slew of meetings because each group wants their own meetings?
Well, I'll comment really quickly and let Jerry take that one because he's more masterful and more experienced in managing that. But I would say what I've encountered at Children's is your title does not excuse you from the work.
Awesome.
In fact, it's the opposite. Your title requires you to be hands-on and know how to do the work. And I'll share a really fun story. Our president and CEO, Chanda Chacon, is taking classes on artificial intelligence. And she's the only president I know across any hospital who's sending me text messages about taking a Python class.
Wow.
And, that level of tenacity, I think, keeps our organization flat. But Jerry can speak much more intelligently on this one.
Yeah, I think, Jeremy, it's a really great question. I think it's a trap that a lot of larger organizations get into is creating these superstructures, right? And we're small enough, and I think even as we grow, we've come a little more flat. So when
awesome.
our new CEO came in, she looked at we had a chief strategy officer, and we had myself, and we had a chief marketing executive, and she said, gosh, Jerry, I think you could take strategy, and Janelle, who's our chief people officer, you could take marketing. And so she combined some things, which I think really helped us advance our work, because now you've got synergies with things happening in the organization. And then while the organization's flat, we do make a distinction based on scope of responsibility. So our chief nursing executive, for example, is a senior vice president, but she's got a very flat organization underneath her. But she's only a senior vice president just because the scope is so large, right? Doesn't have a bunch of vice presidents under her, for example. So I think it helps us to be more agile. And I think Ryan made an excellent point here. Like, I'm the chief information and innovation officer. My level is actually an EVP because I'm in the president's cabinet. But
Yep.
Ryan could tell you I'm in meetings solving why, when we rolled out Epic's Hello World, why is it not going well, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm in there helping make the sausage while we're trying to get the best outcome we can. So we're all very hands-on. You don't have any leader here that folks are reporting in saying this is what's going on. Everyone's very involved and intimately involved in the work that they're helping to manage as well.
That's awesome. And that is rare, I'll tell you that. So your organization, kudos your CEO, and kudos to you, Jerry and Ryan, for keeping that going. Because forcing an organization to be flat forces leaders to continue to put in the work and do the work. It forces them to, I think, understand that all their people that work with them aren't their servants. You're really their servant. Like, you need to be thinking about it. It's a reverse. You have to think about it in a different way. And it also is going to eliminate maybe the few people who get through the cracks who want to chase titles. They just want a constant promotion thing. And you're like, hey, if that's really going to float your boat rather than the work you're doing and the responsibility you're getting, if you're obsessing too much about constantly getting a title promotion, you're just not a fit here.
It's a consequence of not having effective pay grades, right? So the only way that you can advance and support your family and buy the house and do the things, lock in retirement, the goals that all of us have. If you haven't planned that scope of work or that career pathway well, big organizations, they fall on that crutch of a deep hierarchy because it's the only way that you can make more money. We've seen great intention.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, what we've done is we've seen great intention. In fact, this is hot off the press. We've started a process where we evaluate roles and pay every year. That's not a 3-year, not a 5-year. We do it every year. And so we just went through a really healthy process of, doing extensive market research and looking at those roles. And the reality is, I'm a manager. Managers are replaceable commodities. If we bring in somebody who maybe is that AI Sherpa that I talked about before, insert your title there, and they do work that's more valuable than I do, they ought to be paid for that. Regardless of how it sits on an old school, hierarchical chart. That's just the reality of the world. And so you do high value work, you should be rewarded for it, commensurate with what's going on. And so if you don't have those systems in place in your organization, you're always going to have that hierarchy problem.
Yeah, I love that Ryan mentioned that, because I think it's very unique and something, again, back to our chief people officer and her team, to be that forward thinking, to do market analysis yearly across the board. Because, Jeremy, you're probably familiar in healthcare. It's, well, we're going to look at radiology techs this year, and then, in 3 years, we're going to look at IT.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is IT gets kicked down the road because they're concentrated on clinical area, turnover in nursing. And then we all of a sudden, Ryan and I are dealing with a bunch of dissatisfied employees that feel like their market hasn't been done in a long time. So we do an annual process, which is really terrific. And the other thing, I want to go back a second. The other thing on the flat organization that I would like to compliment, Ryan, I mentioned our CEO, Chanda Chacon. She made a commitment to our board that she would have a succession plan for all the leaders in the organization. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that led me to hire Ryan, right? So we didn't have his role in the organization. But as I'm approaching retirement age, getting someone in here that's forward thinking, that I can mentor to success in the organization, so that Children's Nebraska doesn't have to go out and bring someone in that's not familiar with the organization. We also have a really strong chief medical information officer here that we're mentoring to potentially step into Ryan's role as I eventually transition out of the organization. We did the same thing in human resources, where we had one executive, but we brought in a secondary executive, a deputy of sorts, so that if and when Janelle leaves the organization, we can promote from within rather than having to do a national search. And Ryan also, and I also in our organization, work on that. So we, if we have a director and a manager leave, we always want to have someone internally that can step into that role, so that we have to do a protracted search outside of our organization to bring someone in. So that's also a really important component of our development and our retention of our team members as well.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. Hard to do, though. You really have to stay on top of it. Like, you never get to rest. You have to be thinking about the people. You constantly have to be thinking about the future while acting now. Someone said this really good, it had to do with marketing, but she said, it was earlier in the week, no, it was last week. And she said, today's demand is tomorrow brand, or something like that. It's all about that. You have to constantly be focused on that. Now, and I like that your organization is just going to pay people really what they're worth and value. And it isn't equal. Like, no, everybody at this level makes exactly the same, and too bad, because it's not. You go back to the earlier days in Silicon Valley, it's changed now, but you would have an engineer that was making more than any executive, single individual contributor, but they were so valuable. They were making more than the CIO was.
Well, I mean, our product is care. So,
yeah,
we want the best providers and nurses in the world. And the benefit of being in a highly competitive market for that type of talent is we have to be laser focused on it. We don't have the luxury of slacking. We have to have an excellent total rewards package. We have to be really in tune with the work that people are doing. We have to be in tune with what patients and patient families need in terms of the specialties that we're recruiting and the areas of care that we're growing as an enterprise. And so maybe it's consequential and maybe it's a compliment to the organization. Maybe it's both. But, you know, we view it as a big problem if somebody leaves. We really want to know why. Why did you leave us? And when people want to join us and they make a big commitment, you know, you spend oftentimes more time at work than you do at home.
Yeah.
So we try to value that. And so we're just constantly engaged in that conversation. You know, part of it, I think, is because we're just a really well-led organization. And then also part of it, I think, is the nature of healthcare. And if you have any hopes to be successful as a hospital or healthcare enterprise, you had better be tuned into that. Because how many examples, and Jeremy, you did a fabulous one talking about, well, it's RIF season. If you look at those examples and those case studies out there, we don't have to learn that lesson over and over again. We can do it right the first time, and we don't have to get into that old school, you know, mentality.
I think Ryan hit on something key there that I'd like to highlight is, you know, as we're recruiting, particularly providers in specialties, right? We're in the middle of the United States, Omaha, Nebraska. A lot of people have never been here, don't understand what a lovely city we have. And we want to convey that excellence and a culture that people want to be attracted to, right? So when I talk to providers, and we recruit some really talented people, and to a person, when I ask them what drew you to Children's Nebraska, it's the culture. It's the feeling that I can tell you that I had 6 years ago when I interviewed here. It's something really special about the environment. And we have to create that, right? We have to create that culture, and we have to create that excellence. We have to feel or make people feel like they belong and have them really belong in our environment, because we're competing with the East and West Coast, quite honestly, with that talent. So we want to make this something very special that people seek out as well for their career advancement.
I wish it was the steak and the corn and the great sports and athletics programs we've got. I mean, I think that's a big draw. If you come to our region, you're going to have the meal of your life. But you know, some of those younger generations that we were talking about earlier, you know, they're drawn to the beach, and they're drawn to cities like Austin and LA and Seattle that, you know, have kind of that hip vibe. And what is cool about Omaha in particular is we have an excellent chamber. We have a lot of business leaders and community leaders that are working really hard to offer those types of benefits across the city too. So it might surprise you to hear that the hospital is involved in those conversations. And so we're on boards, we're talking about parks and, you know, how we zone things and how we function as a city, because it's part and parcel with being a great city is having a healthy hospital and a great staff bench.
Yeah. And maybe you might not know this, Jeremy, but in 2024, Forbes ranked Omaha the #1 city to move to for quality of life, pay.
You're probably going to get a lot of people from Southern California to move out.
Yeah,
I would imagine
it's tough out there. We feel awful for what's going on the coast there.
Yeah.
I was recently in LA for the first time ever in my entire life, and so I was the Midwest hick who's experiencing this fantastic culture on the coast. It's just heartbreaking to watch that. I hope they rebuild and it comes back.
Yeah, we'll see. They need to put a few things in place for sure. So what they need to do is what you do. You listen to your staff. It's become pretty apparent they need to listen to their firefighters, the resource management, wildlife management. They need to finally listen, because it's really sad that people have been screaming about it for 10 years, like, hey, we need to take some action. I lived there for a few years, and so you'd see the Santa Anas, and it was always like crazy. Like, where's the fires going to pop up next? What's going to happen? So
Wow.
I feel horrible for everyone
Yeah.
that's impacted. And I hope this really serves as a wake-up call to their leaders to, like, you need to listen to the people, because there's wisdom in the masses. There's there's wisdom in your people.
100%.
Listen to them. So you only have a minute or two left. Is there anything that we should, because I want to get you on your way, is there anything we should be talking about and didn't talk about? Like, we could get into AI. Like, I'm always interested in what you probably following my post on social media, especially LinkedIn. I really hammer on patient experience, consumerism, et cetera. And I get in a lot of arguments with doctors, lots. Because they're like, they should just shut up. And if we treat them and their condition's better, that should be all they need to worry about. I'm like, well, that might work for a Gen Xer like me, but I can tell you for my kids, Gen Z and Alpha, they will never put up with that. Never in a million years. So I don't know if there's anything we could talk about there at the end that you want to throw in there, or take it in a different direction in the last couple of minutes.
It's a profoundly exciting time to be in healthcare. It's a profoundly exciting time to be in technology. We touched on it earlier. We have up to 5 generations working together.
It's amazing.
And so I think the conversation, like, if my wish for future conversations for people to continue to talk about is how to do good work, how to do good things, how to take this incredible opportunity we have in front of us with the resources and the technology that we have to help people live longer, happier, healthier lives. There's speculation already that with the technology that's being developed, the person who will live forever has already been born. And that's through gene therapies, that's through robotics, that's through AI, that's through all the, exciting things with biohacking and everything that's happening in this healthcare space. But, it is going to take the momentum and the voice of every single one of us to continue to focus on doing things that's good for others. Because there's a lot of temptation to just build it to make a lot of money. And we've already proven that we can do that. So, my call and my wish out to the world for that greater conversation is for companies and partners and developers to continue to engage with pediatric providers, continue to engage with children's hospitals, because we have incredible opportunities really to poke a hole in the universe and do things that were never possible before.
Yeah, and I'll add, I couldn't have said it much better than Ryan. When I reflect on my journey in healthcare, you had federal mandates, right? So you had meaningful use that made us use technology and we've evolved, right? So I'm very optimistic about the future, because when Ryan and I engage with providers, it's how do we do the next best thing? Where 10 years ago, I was getting the EMR's crap, I can't use it, etc. Really, they're seeking us out saying, how do we harness this technology to make pediatric healthcare better, to make these kids' lives better, and have them have the most positive outcomes they can have. And we've had several examples of just some things that we've done in the past couple of years that have just improved outcomes tremendously. So I'm very optimistic about the future in the partnership. And I think Ryan mentioned earlier, what's really exciting to me is healthcare used to be so contained, and you had the Philips and the GEs and the Siemens that controlled everything we were doing with technology in healthcare. And now you have these startups that we're partnering with that are interested in what we're doing, that want to be partners with us and develop with us. And we have providers at the table helping to guide that process. And it's going to just make us have the ability to go so much quicker and to improve folks' lives much quicker than we have in the past. And my opinion is the Philips and the Siemens and folks that can't be agile anymore, the Oracle Cerners, are going to start to fall apart and see their margins start to diminish. I think Epic is that they're agile enough and can figure out, but I think these larger healthcare companies that have been bureaucratic for so long that can't advance technology as quickly as they should are going to start to fall by the wayside as these startups really help us advance healthcare in really meaningful ways.
Yeah, I think we're starting already to see that. So that's a great place to end. So I'll put links in the description to talk about you both, to your LinkedIn profiles. Also going to put a link to Children Nebraska. And if there's any other areas where people can follow you, learn about you, if you want links to your awards, just send it and we'll put there too. Or maybe you started your own, say Children's Nebraska /awards /we're awesome /we're better than you. Just kidding.
You're too kind.
Yeah, exactly. We'll make sure we put all that there so people can follow your organization, what you're doing, and each of you. But I want to, given that what your job really is associated with life and death, it's not hyperbole to say it. I appreciate the 80 minutes we've been able to spend together. I really appreciate it, guys.
We do too. Yeah. We're not flyover country.
You're not.
The Midwest is super important. And so when you reach out to help us share our story, that means a lot. And, on behalf of myself and the whole organization, thank you so much for having us.
Agree. Awesome. So much. And again, I want to thank Ryan for his partnership as well. As someone that's been in this business for a long time, it's rare when you find someone that's such a great collaborative partner. And we really have a great working relationship, and he's really helped advance the organization tremendously. So thank you, Ryan. And Jeremy, thank you for the opportunity. We love talking about this. We just absolutely love it.
Yeah, and the whole goal is people can learn from you, because it really is. And I know we keep talking because I just love talking to you guys. Is organizations can learn. You're getting notoriety now, so I'd imagine you're going to get a lot more people reaching out to learn, and hopefully they're respectful of your time. But you're the type of people in your organizations that isn't going to say no. You're going to say, maybe can't help you right now, but let's set up a call to do that. So that kind of mentoring across, what a great cultural advantage. So again, thank you both. Hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too, Jeremy. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.